Jim Harbaugh's days in the Big Ten and college football have come to an end. Harbs is headed out to sunny Southern California to be the head coach of the NFL's Los Angeles Chargers. Ward Manuel, you have one job, and one job only. Hire Sherrone Moore.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
This day is no surprise. We all saw this day coming from multiple Michigan miles away ever since August. Ever since Jim Harbaugh was suspended for the first 3 games of the season. Ever since this entire season was coming back for one last run and for one reason only, to win a national championship. And then when another NCAA investigation gets piled on top of it with the sign stealing investigation, and then they go out and complete a 15-0 undefeated season in college football, and Jim Harbaugh finally brings home that national championship that he's been striving for. There was really no reason for Jim Harbaugh to come back, especially with all of the talent that declared for the NFL draft. This was always going to happen. Sure, there were maybe a few hills and valleys and a few obstacles in the way to be able to get to this point, but we all knew that this point was eventually going to be a moment in time. But this is not NFL Ted. This is Big Ten Ted. So we are going to look at this thing from the perspective of the college football team involved, and that is the University of Michigan. Boy, the man in that athletic director's office has a pretty easy job. You got to look at Sherrone Moore. You got to get him on the horn right here and right now, and you got to get him to sign on the dotted line. Because I'm sure Ward Manuel has been looking at what has happened at Alabama after Nick Saban retired. I'm sure he's been looking at what happened when Kalen DeBoer left Washington to take over that Alabama job. These rosters get decimated, and these programs aren't what they were, and you lose some of that shine, you lose some of that luster when you go out of house and hire a new head coach. There's a rebuilding effort. Some programs may be more than others, but still there is a rebuilding effort involved, and Ward Manuel in Michigan want to minimize that rebuilding effort from promoting in-house. This could possibly become a trend where promoting in-house could become more of a thing because of the roster departures and roster movements that exist when you bring in a brand new head coach and when you bring in a new coaching staff. But it's got to depend on you having a great candidate in-house. And I believe Sherrone Moore over time has proven that he has been a great candidate. What he was able to do filling in for those 3 games at the end of the season after that Jim Harbaugh Big Ten suspension, wins over Penn State, wins over Ohio State, how he was able to keep that team together, keep them on their singular track and their singular focus to be able to win a Big Ten championship, I think should be commended as well. And he's really as big a part, especially on the offensive side of the ball, since he was an offensive line coach and an offensive coordinator, he's as big of the parts of the roots of the program, maybe more than anybody. He's been this offensive line coach for a good chunk of time at Michigan. And this Michigan team, we know, has been built from the inside out. Before Washington won the Joe Moore Award this past season as the best offensive line in college football, Sherrone Moore had back-to-back winners in 2021 and 2022 as well. Oh, and then this year's offensive line, yeah, that was a pretty good offensive line as well. So he has contributed to the culture and building Michigan back maybe more than anybody has. And he's proven himself, I think, in-house in Michigan. And we've said this before on this channel. Michigan is built to succeed a certain way. Some programs win in certain ways. Boy, it seems like over time, you look at a program out west that's going to be a future Big Ten program in the University of Oregon, it always seems that they've got pretty good quarterbacks, they've got fast skill players on the outside, and they're very good on the offensive side of the ball. They're explosive, and they score a lot of points. When you look at Michigan, this is a team that is physical in the trenches, that runs the ball down your throat, and plays great defense. Keeping Sherrone Moore in this program and leading this program into the future, I believe, ensures that culture will remain at Michigan, and thus Michigan is able to build off of everything that they've laid down. You bring in a new coach, whether it's a Brian Kelly, whether it's a Chris Kleiman, a Lance Leipold, or whoever it is, you're bringing in a new culture. It could be a little bit new. It could be a lot new. Either way, it is a new culture. And the culture on the field that has been established at Michigan has been proven to be pretty darn good, winning 3 consecutive Big Ten titles. When you look at this Michigan team for 2024, a team that Jim Harbaugh now is officially leaving behind, if Sherrone Moore is promoted to be the next head coach of the Maize and Blue, this is a team, if he can retain key pieces, this is a team that can still remain competitive in 2024. Even if they bring back all of these pieces next season, I wouldn't consider them on the level of an Ohio State. I wouldn't consider them on the level of an Oregon. Those teams have leveled up big time as we look forward to next season. But Michigan is maybe that next tier down if they're able to hold on, brace for impact, and hold on to a lot of these guys on this roster right now. You look at the defensive side of the football, and that's a little bit of a concern. I'm going to get to that here in just a minute. You look at the defensive line. Mason Graham might be the best defensive lineman in college football. You look at guys like Kenneth Grant and Derek Moore. They could have one of the best D-lines in college football if Sherrone Moore is promoted to head coach, and if they're able to kind of keep things in-house a little bit and retain some of this talent. Will Johnson is back there as well. How about Colston Loveland on the offensive side of the football as well? But, and there's always a but Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, yeah, he needs some coordinators as well. He needs a defensive coordinator, and it's been rumored / reported that Jesse Minter, who's got an extensive NFL background, might come with Jim Harbaugh to the Los Angeles Chargers. So if you look at all of those returning players that could come back on this Michigan defense, I forgot to mention Ernest Hausman. He's a big part returning as well, the former Nebraska Cornhusker. They're going to need a new defensive coordinator. And with a new defensive coordinator could come just a tweak in defensive culture. It could come a tweak or a whole new scheme. That is something to keep an eye on, especially for these defensive players. And I'm very curious to see what Michigan is also going to look like on the offensive side of the football. What does this new world look like under Sherrone Moore? I don't think it changes too much on offense. So when you're looking at players like Donovan Edwards and a Colston Loveland and a Tyler Morris, should they stay or should they go? You would think that they would stick around with Sherrone Moore establishing and keeping what Michigan has built over the years on offense. I believe the big concern, whether players are going to enter the portal in this 30-day window, is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. Acting quickly is maybe one of the biggest parts of this whole thing for the University of Michigan right now. I believe that they have the right guy within Schembechler Hall, within those hallowed halls in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They've just got to find a way to keep him around, right? The incentive is pretty strong, being the head coach at a program like the University of Michigan. And you have to wonder what this program is going to look like a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. After a coach like Jim Harbaugh leaves, what will a Sherrone Moore program look like? Because I'm not saying the NCAA is going to drop the hammer, but you've got to imagine that the NCAA is going to press down some infractions of some sort, whether they be minor or whether they be major. How does that impact a Sherrone Moore coaching reign as well? It's certainly something to keep an eye on as we progress further. But you know there are some Big Ten programs out there that would love some of this talent in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Let me know what you guys think of Jim Harbaugh leaving to go to become the next head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, and agree, disagree on Sherrone Moore possibly being the next head coach in Ann Arbor.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.